Thank you so much for choosing to listen to Building Better Businesses with Catalyst Consulting. I'm Kristen Dees, the founder of Catalyst Consulting, a business consulting agency that is passionate about helping small businesses thrive. The goal of this podcast is to connect entrepreneurs with experts in a variety of industries that support small business owners in order to provide you with helpful tips, resources, and some entrepreneurship inspiration. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Building Better Businesses with Catalyst Consulting. My guest today is Barbara Gallen of Inspired Action Coaching and Consulting. I'm super excited to have you here. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Kristen. I'm happy to be here with you as well.
Yeah, no, it's fun. This is one of my favorite things to do is the podcasting. I'm like, yeah, I have like a consulting business, but this is my favorite. So nice. Yeah, thanks for connecting. Tell us a little bit about you as a human being. What do you do for fun? Where are you at? Where do you live in the world? All that good stuff.
Well, I'm in the garden spot of Pennsylvania, in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, South Central. I grew up in Philadelphia, which mileage-wise isn't very far away, but it's really far away because this is fairly rural, small city, and then rural, beautiful, rolling hills and fields of corn. Yeah.
Nice.
And I'm a mom. I'm a grandmother to 3 great girls. They've dubbed me the Graminator. You can take from that whatever you think that means.
That's cute.
Yeah. I'm a sister. I'm a friend. I love mentoring, especially younger women who are on their path. So yeah, I've pretty much spent a lifetime creating connections. I love making connections. You said this is your favorite thing. I think making connections is my favorite thing. Bringing people together, maybe that never would have crossed paths. And I love to host parties and dinner parties where everybody knows somebody, but nobody knows everybody, that kind of thing. Yeah.
No,
I'm also
fun.
a dancer. I love to dance. That's kind of what I do for fun, other than, playing Candyland and Yahtzee with the girls.
What type of dance do you do, or just whatever?
I do ballroom, Latin, and swing.
Oh, fun. Okay.
Yeah,
Very
partner
cool.
dancing. Very fun.
Yeah.
It keeps me from needing to go to the gym.
Yes. Dancing is hard work. Every time I do that, it's fun. I like to take lessons every now and again. I'm like, man, it's not simple. At least if you're doing it right anyway.
Yeah. It creates my flow state, which I love. I totally lose track of the time.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. I love it. What's a fun fact about you? Something random that maybe not everybody knows.
Random.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's something that almost nobody knows. And that is I have this secret obsession with true crime fiction and nonfiction. I don't know why exactly. My dad was a Philly cop. Maybe it's in the blood. I don't know, but that's my guilty pleasure.
No, it's great. That's like my favorite. I'm not so much into the true crime, but I love like mysteries, detective stuff. Those are some of my favorite shows and books to read. Yeah, I don't really know why either necessarily, but I think it's just something about like it tickles my brain in the right way,
Exactly. I'm always trying to figure out if I can figure it out before you get to the end of the book and go, oh, that wasn't who I thought. But it's still fun.
Yeah. No, it's great. I love it. So what do you do on the work side of things? How do you provide support for business owners and entrepreneurs?
So again, back to the theme of connection. I think what I do best is help people connect to themselves, connect to their business, connect to their community, connect to the work, and get to that part of themselves and maybe that true purpose for their company that sometimes gets lost. It sometimes gets lost.
Mm-hmm.
So in addition to 20 years of consulting, I'm also a Martha Beck Institute trained life coach. And I've spent a long career working with organizations and businesses and advocating for causes. And, I've raised a lot of money and, I've marched in Washington a few times. I have a way of seeing the big picture. Again, for individuals and teams and leaders, like where are you now? Where do you want to be? What's the real unique gift of your nature that we can use to carry you and take you and your business or your company or your organization or your cause where you want to go, so that we can unlock that potential that often is not unlocked for people. They're just doing what they're doing. And yeah,
that's one of my favorite things about like my leadership journey is figuring out that skill and the ability to help people see things that they didn't necessarily even see in themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like that a lot about this whole process in general, is helping other people get there Very cool. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And
So, oh, go
yeah,
ahead.
I was just going to say that, I probably worked with companies and organizations for 15 years. They would always call me when they want more money or maybe a little more productivity, right? But it was always around money. And then when I would get inside the systems, the processes, the conflict, we were talking before we started recording about, the fake harmony. It looks like harmony. It's not harmony.
Hmm.
It's all underground, all of that. So while I was with them, they would raise money. They would do whatever it is. But when I would leave, it was back to the old stuff. And I realized these aren't money problems. These aren't productivity problems. These are people problems. So eventually, in the fullness of time, I decided to get some more training. And that's when I went to the Martha Beck Institute to learn, okay, how do I actually help people and the people in the organizations know what they truly are good at, get in the right seat, get in the right seat on the bus is an old metaphor. And that's where people do their best. When they're tapped into their unique genius, their unique state of flow, that's when they do their best. That's when they're the most successful. And therefore, that's when the team is the most successful.
Yeah, I think I was just talking about this with a couple people about like the pizza parties and like companies that like that's how they like it's the fake harmony thing. It's like we're gonna throw
Yes.
pizza parties and we're gonna do a harvest festival and all this stuff, but it's like in all reality, the culture is not great. And if
Mm-hmm.
it is healthy, you don't usually need stuff like that. Like sometimes there's like, because certain people do like the team connection activities and those kinds of things. Like that stuff is important to them because they want to feel like they can get to know each other
Mm-hmm.
outside of just like the work stuff. But in all reality, like if you're doing those things, it's usually kind of some sort of stopgap almost. Like, yeah, the fake harmony. I've also noticed too in my experience in corporate life is if you can't say what you're good at,
Mm-hmm.
because it's looked at as being cocky or arrogant or that you're tearing someone else down, then that is
Mm.
like one of the biggest red flags, I think. Cause like I've worked in
Mm.
places where you being good at something or just factually saying like I'm strategic, that's just I can't not do
Exactly.
it, it's just how my brain works, I'm good at it. I'm not saying that other people are bad at it, I'm not saying that I'm better than other people in general because I have the skill. It's such a bizarre like toxic environment to be in, to not be able to just be like I'm good at this and Barbara's really good at this and you should have her help you with this thing
Yes.
because she's really great at seeing the big
Yes.
picture or whatever it is. So when it's like fake humility almost too, where you're not allowed to be good at
Yes.
things and you're also not allowed to be bad at things, is it's kind of an interesting.
It's like you're not allowed to be.
Yeah, it's very strange. Yep. It's a
It's
weird little.
very, very strange.
Yep, can't be good at things, also can't be bad at things, and also it's deeply cutthroat and you have to try and like take
Yes.
other people out to get jobs that you want. It's just it's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Leave there. Just get
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. 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 I did eventually.
Yes. Exactly.
A
Me too.
couple times, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's an
Right.
interesting concept because it's I think the word that comes to mind is like toxic positivity too, because I think that's a thing that kind of like floats around sometimes, just
Oh,
be happy,
yeah.
like everything's
That's
great and like
fake
be
too.
grateful. Yep. I'm like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
yeah, you should have like a positive outlook and think, be grateful and practice gratitude and all of that kind of stuff. But also sometimes life just sucks and that's fine. Like
That's
you can
right.
have a really bad day or week or a month even. And like
Exactly.
you're
Exactly.
still okay. Like it's okay.
Exactly. My experience of building teams is that there has to be a core of trust. And all
Yeah.
the things that we're talking about now and the things you're describing, they do not build trust. And if there's not trust and people don't feel safe showing up as who they are, then you're not getting their best.
Yeah.
No matter what, you are not getting their best. I don't know
Yep.
if you like Ted Lasso. I love Ted Lasso.
I haven't
Waiting
seen it.
for a new,
I need to
you
watch
gotta
it
watch
because
it.
like
You
I've
gotta
heard so
watch it.
much, but
Right.
yeah, I need to get someone's Apple Plus login.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so the premise. Ted is an American football coach at some college level, and he
Yeah.
gets recruited for reasons that become apparent to a Premier League football club in the UK. And he knows about as much about soccer, we call it soccer, as I do, which is to say nothing. And but he knows how to build a team. He's got all these superstars on the team, and many teams are filled with superstars. But if they can't authentically bring it and feel safe bringing it, and maybe sometimes not succeed, push to the limit and maybe over the limit so that maybe it's not 100% success rate, then they're not functioning at the highest possible level.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that metaphor of Ted Lasso because
go ahead. I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
just the team, when it comes together and everybody is able to communicate and contribute their best, you're unstoppable.
Yeah. It's because I feel like the coaching to me is the same thing as leadership, kind of. They're all, interconnected in the same kind of way. So it's the ability to put, like you were kind of saying, put people in the right seats, but allow people to just be really good at these things and allow other people to not be great at these things. And like the team still functions instead of trying to make everyone be a generalist or everyone has to communicate in this specific way, that kind of stuff. Like that's always been, because I've done the same thing, like taking different teams in either different industries, like different, like actual jobs, or moved around and taken different teams. And it's the same, like, I don't have to know the specifics of how to make a golden widget to be a good leader. I'll figure it out because I like to know, because that's the kind of leader that I am. I like to know enough to be dangerous so that nobody can pull the wool over my eyes. That's really
right.
But the leadership formula is the same no matter where you go. Like that's still it's like you said, the building connections and getting to know people and putting them in the right places and helping people leverage their strengths is.
Yes.
Hey, thanks for listening so far. I hope you've been enjoying this episode of Building Better Businesses. I just wanted to stop and share about our Business Foundations course that is now live on the Catalyst Consulting website. This course goes over Business Planning 101, so it goes over a template for business planning as well as setting up your foundational habits and practices as a business owner. So we'll talk through some time management strategy, defining your version of success, and then also wrap up your business plan for you. If you want to check it out, hop over to bit.ly/pillar1. That's bit.ly/pillar-1. That link will be available for you in the show notes as well. How did you end up doing this? Like I think you were kind of talking a little bit about previous life, but what was your journey to owning Inspired Action?
Yeah. So, I came up through healthcare. I literally worked my way through college as a nurse's aide. So, and boy, did I learn lessons being right there in the grassroots and on the front lines. In fact, one summer, this doesn't ever happen now, but people were being laid off, and it was a Catholic hospital, and Sister Joseph, she called me in and she said, if you're willing to work in housekeeping, because I know you need this job in order to go back to school, then you can work in housekeeping. And then when we bring people back, you'll be right at the top of the list. And I'm like, I can clean toilets. Done that in the back. And what I realized, what I learned, and fast forward, I go through my initial work in the laboratory, and then I become a manager, and then I get a master's in health administration. And, and now I'm working at a VP level, but I never forgot. You can do whatever up there in the atmosphere and the stratosphere of the administrative suite. But if you aren't taking care of those people on the front lines and they're not taking care of your customers, patients, we call them, you're screwed. I never forgot that. And so that was my journey. I ended up as the VP for development in the foundation for a hospital. And I started doing side gigs, helping smaller organizations raise money. And eventually I was like, yeah, that's the part I really love, working more hands-on with these groups. And so, flipped into being in my own business about 20 years ago and ended up raising lots of money, working with all kinds of nonprofit organizations. And, but eventually, as I said, realizing I need more people development skills, because that's really where the rubber's meeting the road or not meeting the road. And that sent me to the Martha Beck Institute to learn what she calls Wayfinder Coaching, and just a lot about how does the brain work, what makes people tick in a different way than I understood up to that point. So I love to use that along with all of the other experiences that I have to help people really find their core of what's essential to them.
Mm-hmm. No, that's great. I love it. That's my favorite. The people stuff is always my favorite thing. I also like to say too, if you think your employees are the problem, you are the problem.
Yes.
Because I've
Yes.
had that a bunch of times. Or like when we're,
Yes.
occasionally, somebody would bring in like a speaker or somebody to do like a workshop for the day or something.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, I
Yeah.
just can't get my employees just blah, blah, blah. And it's like, how do I
Yeah.
make them do X, Y, or Z? I'm like, sure, that's a you thing.
Yeah. Yeah. You've got to create that environment in
Yeah.
which they are flourishing and bringing their best.
Yeah.
And if
Well,
that's not the case, chances are
yeah.
it's the leader.
Yeah. And I mean, it's like, what you're saying too is like building a culture of trust and accountability,
Yes. Yes.
of
That's
like,
right.
this is a safe space and we can have conversations about stuff and it's fine. We can be people. uh,
Yes.
yeah, no, it's great. What are the top 3 things you think business owners or entrepreneurs need to know about what you do? Like, are the top 3 pieces of advice or things that you're regularly helping people with, if that makes sense?
Yes. So let me start by saying I'm not so much the check the boxes kind of coach. And I do have people say, hold me accountable to this and make me check in. And like, I don't want to be people's mothers. I
Yeah.
have kids, I'll mother them. And I don't tell my clients what to do. Maybe that's not 100% true, but I'm more about helping them discover their why. Why do you want to do this? What's at the core of your being that is calling you to do this work or to be this person? So motivation versus inspiration. So I'm motivated perhaps to lose those 5 pounds from pandemic I can't quite get rid of, but I'm inspired to dance. People go, oh, you're so dedicated. You're so disciplined with your dance. Guess what? There's no discipline there. I love to dance every opportunity. I am drawn to it. It's the pull. It pulls me in. Motivation will push me. Absolutely. And Martha Beck in particular talks about the social self and the essential self. Okay. Social self helps us live in the world, live with other people. If we didn't have a social self, we'd probably be doing these interviews from a cell somewhere because we'd be locked up. Right. But
Yeah.
that's motivation, the things we have to do to make it work. But then there's the inspiration, the thing that you are pulled to do, the thing that you would do whether somebody paid you or not, assuming you could live when you were independently wealthy or whatever. And that's the part that in our culture, the inspiration part, the essential self part, it's that part that when you were a little kid, you would do whatever you did for hours and hours and hours and hours. And that's the part that gets buried. I'm going to say under the rubble of all the things we have to do, the shoulds, and the checking of all the boxes. Essentially, eventually, our essential self, we can't even find it. It's an archaeological dig to get to it. And people come to me, and sometimes they are like people I know, super successful people saying, yeah, this looks great. I get the big house and I got the career. Maybe I'm a physician. Maybe I've sold a bank. I had a client that sold a mortgage bank to M&T, small little regional bank, had more money than she knew what to do with, entered some partner, was unhappy. I don't know where I am in this. Where am I? I'm lost in this. And it doesn't seem possible, but there it is. And when we can find that essential self and have it in balance, with the social self, the things we have to do, that's the place where our unique genius, where the flow state, where the energy, where the inspiration becomes an integral part of what we're doing. And we become unstoppable. The banker eventually found that, and she's in the most frankly kick-ass partnership right now ever, loving her life. We become filled with joy, with satisfaction. And we're successful because we're successful at those things. And so the methods that I use are more a part of a discovery process, maybe of things that at some level you already do know, but it just has gotten buried and the fog is surrounding you. So we clear the fog. We unpack the limiting beliefs like, oh, I can't do that. That would be selfish, or that would be wrong, or people wouldn't understand me. And then where does fear fit in? No matter what you do that's new, there's going to be some aspect of fear to that. But again, don't let it in the driver's seat.
Yeah.
And, then you can see the options. You can see what you want to do next. You can see what's the next right thing. And I tell my clients, in most cases, the mind that creates the problem is not the mind that's going to solve the problem. So we got to get down under. We got to get it down under that limited thinking. And I also help individuals, leaders, to tap into the wisdom that's in their body. How does that feel in your body when you're free flowing and you're at your best and you're doing the thing you love? Where do you feel that? When you're like, I don't know what I'm going to do next. Where do you feel that in your body? Let that be your compass. Yes, no, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, those are some of the things that I do.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think it's important to be able to get to that stuff because it's all the weird little things that we've created in the stories that we've told ourselves over, our entire lives. And it's like,
Yes.
oh, wait, I don't have to hold on to that little identity thing that I've invented for myself because it explains this
Right.
other thing. Oh, interesting. Hey, thanks for listening so far. I just wanted to stop and tell you about Bambi, which is a great HR resource for small business owners. It's basically outsourcing your HR or getting HR support in-house for managing all of your employees. They also help with payroll services too, but their real bread and butter specialty is providing small business owners with comprehensive HR support and setting you up with best practices for the long-term success of your business. So if that's something that you're into, I highly recommend checking them out. They are a great resource and one of my favorite ones to recommend for HR services. The link for that is Bambee, BAMBEE.GRSM.io/catalyst. And the link will also be in the show notes for the episode in case that's too many letters to remember. Check it out. So when people are looking for someone like you to help them grow their business, what do they need to know to make sure that you're a good fit for them, or that someone else too? Like some of those things that
Right.
they could ask a coach or consultant to make sure that they know what they're talking about or that they're a good fit for them. What do you
Yes.
recommend?
If you're going to work with me, then I'm going to take you through a discovery process. And it's not going to be a quick fix, but we'll dig down into what the real issues are. And some of them will be blind spots and be like, I don't know. I didn't know that existed. If you want somebody to simply hold you accountable and help you check the boxes, then see what other work people have done. See what other work I have done. See what I've done to help clients who maybe have your same issue. I definitely do an initial probably 2 hours with a client and perhaps individuals on their leadership team to just get to know them, for them to get to know me. Because if it's not a good fit, that is to nobody's benefit. So yeah, we're going to dig in.
Okay. So if they what would be like a red flag or something like that if they're trying to meet with a coach or a consultant that would be a concern? Like, for example, I know somebody who has been talking to, or who had been talking to, a coach about possibly working together, and she was like, no, it's not what I want, but he will not stop talking to her. He will not stop reaching out and trying to get her into their programs and sell them on stuff, and which I feel like is a red flag for a number of reasons. But that's also traditional
Absolutely.
sales tactics too. So it's that's old school sales. You have to hound the person, follow up with them 1,000 times, and then they'll finally say yes. It's that's coercion, but go on.
If the process is not about your organization, your team, whatever it is you're coming to the consultant and the coach for, it's not about you. If there's not good listening, here's my rule of thumb. I'm listening 70% of the time. I'm talking 30% of the time. If what I'm talking about doesn't match what you just told me, run, because they've got something canned. They've got something. This is my product. Here, buy it. Let me convince you why you need it. That's not what this is about. It has to be customized to what that person or that organization's issues are.
Mm-hmm.
So lots of listening. If what I have to offer is what someone needs, there's no selling necessary.
Yeah, I agree. That's pretty much how I've always approached mine too. I've had people try to tell me that I need to simplify my offers and that I need to have 2 or 3 things that I offer to everyone. And I'm like, but I can't though, because everyone that I help and what I help with is very specific to what their needs are. Like
Exactly.
that's my leadership style. That's my who I am style. That's how I do
Yes.
things. And it doesn't make sense to me also because I'm a
Right.
generalist. And so I have
Yeah.
broad scope background in a lot of things. I'm like, I can't do three things. That's insane. Because I've helped like I'll go through like cycles of helping a bunch of people with the same thing. I don't know
Right.
why this happens, but this happens. So like I was helping a bunch of people hire. So I had like 3 or 4 clients that I was helping hire for positions, and
Right.
all of them had different specific needs as it related to hiring. So some of them just didn't have the time or want to go through the run the applications and like do the screening and like interview process. So like I was
Right.
just basically helping them with that. And then I was a sounding board for the final round. But then other people needed more of the like, let's create some onboarding processes. Let's make sure you're set up for success. I'm like, how can that's not customizable. So I'm with you there. I don't think that
Yeah.
containers, they serve a purpose. If you're looking for something and you just like, this person's specifically good at this thing and they're going to help me with this, but I'm the same way. I don't think it's a one size fits all in any way, shape, or form because we're too different. So
Yeah, and if the consultant and or coach is not helping you get to your why, to get to what inspires you, what really makes you or your company unique, then they're really not helping you. I mean, you can buy a book, you can go on YouTube if you want.
yeah.
Cookie cutter.
Yep. There's a lot of people that say that they're business coaches and consultants too, and don't really have what's the word I'm looking for? It's basically like what you were just saying. Like you can Google how to run a business. You can Google how to grow a business. You
Exactly.
can Google how to hire people. You can Google employee
Exactly.
engagement. Like all this stuff exists out there. But if you don't already have the core skill set to apply the
Yes.
new knowledge, then it doesn't help you. Like you need somebody who has the teacher in the classroom basically that's like,
Yes.
here's the topic that I'm an expert on. Let me connect the dots for you in a way that's unique and makes sense for you instead of trying to make you watch a YouTube video or whatever on how to engage your
Exactly.
employees, So yeah,
Because
that
most
makes sense.
people, myself included, I have my blind spots.
Mm-hmm.
I might look at something and go, oh, that's a great concept, but I don't see how either I'm in my own way or how that actually gets applied in
Yeah. Like
a whole bevy of situations that come up.
practical application of the knowledge is a whole
Right.
different piece
Right.
of I was just talking about this when it comes to hiring college graduates with no job experience. And I was like, that's like a red flag. I almost will never do it because they don't have any practical experience. They don't understand how the world
Exactly.
actually works. Bless their hearts.
Exactly.
College educations are great, but not without corresponding life experience. Even if they worked at Sonic the entire time they were in college, that's fine.
Exactly.
Like
Exactly.
you get how things need to work, how a business should run, the
Exactly.
basics of customer service and interfacing with people in conflict situations, all that. But if they just like went to college for 4 years, I'm like, are you okay?
Yeah,
I'm like,
exactly.
I can't do it.
I
Anyway,
mean, like I said, literally, I carried that experience of being a housekeeper in a hospital for one summer
yeah.
through my entire career.
Yep. It's like a core memory essentially of like it shaped you in a way that you never would have. It's not like you knew it was happening when it was happening, but it meant a
Exactly.
lot and shaped your entire philosophy in some ways. So
Exactly.
yeah, no, I think that's super important. Hey, thanks for listening so far. I just wanted to share one of my favorite payroll processing and HR systems that I like to use. Gusto.com, Gusto, is one of my favorite payroll processing systems in particular, but also they have a ton of great HR support add-ons that you can get as well, especially as your business is evolving. They can help you create employee handbooks, hiring and onboarding processes. And one of my favorite features is that they will actually file all of your payroll taxes for you. So that's one less thing that you have to worry about. They'll take out taxes every time you process payroll, and then they'll send them to the places that they need to go when they need to get there. So one less thing to worry about as a small business owner, since most of us wear a million hats. Gusto is one of my go-tos. If you're interested in that, if you use my link, you'll get a $100 Visa gift card. The link for that is gusto.com, gusto.com/D like D's /Kristen, Kristin 7202. And that link will also be in the show notes for you. But again, can't rave enough. It's one of my favorite systems that I use to run my business. So let's see. Oh, so as an entrepreneur and business owner yourself, what advice would you give other business owners about running their businesses?
Yeah, we've touched on this a little bit, but I I would want to say, do not underestimate the unmatched power of trust and transparency, both to build a team, to build loyal clients, to build a community around you. I wrote a blog post, one of my blog posts called Getting Naked, which was a little provocative, but it's based on the book of the same name by Patrick Lencioni. And it just talks about how important it is even to admit, you know what, I screwed up. I missed that. To not just have this sheen, fake harmony, this fake, oh, everything's great thing,
Yeah.
I mean, unless you're living under a rock, you've probably heard, everybody's heard of Brene Brown and the power of vulnerability and authenticity. And somehow, post pandemic, if we are actually post, I think we realize even more than ever that getting real is so valuable. It's priceless, really. So I would just tell others who are going on this journey. I'm coaching a client right now that's going from being a school psychologist to having her own private practice. And she's like,
Oh,
wow,
nice.
this business, this creating a business thing is really challenging. And I'm like, yeah, it is. It
Mm-hmm.
really is. And you maybe you want to project in traditional marketing, which I always have trouble with, is just predict. I'm good. You work with me, you're going to get this, and this. I don't know if you're going to get that, and that. And I don't even know if you want those three things, right? So that authenticity, that being present, and realizing, hey, it's not going to be 100% of the time that I do everything correctly. It's not possible. And I'm either covering it up, or I'm not trying hard enough, or I'm not pushing to that place where I ever make a mistake. Yeah, to me, that's a superpower if you can get there.
Mm-hmm. I think that reminds me of a peer that I had at one point in time. So like in corporate land, especially when you're like, I mean, you're really at the bottom of the food chain. Like, even though you're in like leadership,
Exactly.
it's like lower middle management, because you're just like
Right.
on the front lines with the delivery teams.
Right.
And every time, they would pass us something down from on high about whatever stupid thing we were going to do, whatever objective they were going to force us all to adhere to. Anyway, you can see why I don't work in corporate life anymore. But
Yes.
my team would take everything extremely well, and we would then have our our leadership team meeting. So there's the 6 or 7 of us, and they'd be like, oh my god, my team's like losing their minds, like people are so upset. And they're like, how'd your team take it? And I was like, fine. I mean, like, they're not happy about it, but it's whatever. Because it was that's always been my style, is just like, hey, you know what, like, I get that this kind of sucks, and like there's only so much. They also knew and trusted that I would do everything in my power to make their lives better, and that they were always my first priority over
Yes.
everything else. I mean, besides, like, right, there's the business still. But so when it was, I'm telling them like, yeah, they want us to do 20 jumping jacks every day before we start, or what, that's not real, but I'm just saying.
Right. Right.
They'd be like, oh man, like, how are we gonna make that happen? It's like, dude, we'll figure it out. We always figure it out. It's not great. We don't love it. It's not my favorite thing either, but this is where we work, and
Exactly.
this is the team, and together we will survive whatever it is. And then the leaders who would do the fake positivity stuff, like, this is the
Right.
best idea ever, and like, we're gonna go after this, and their teams would be like, you're a lunatic. So they
Yeah.
they
They don't
completely
trust
lose
that.
faith.
There's
Yep.
no trust in that.
Yeah, they lose faith that they're actually competent and
Exactly.
um
Exactly.
and have their best interest in mind. Like, just with this,
Exactly.
with something as simple as that, it's just the delivery of a message. And it's like, yeah, the authenticity and vulnerability and ability to say, hey, like, this sucks, and
Yeah.
I'm super sorry, I'm sorry that I messed up, I tried to do this thing, like, I thought this was going to
Exactly.
be a thing that worked for us, it's not, my bad, what can we
I
do?
see. I see it. I see where it went wrong. Yeah.
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 Yep.
So that
But
environment of trust, it's huge.
yeah. And it really is, like you said, like, I love Brene Brown too. Like, she's
Hmm.
so great in so many ways. But the authenticity, the vulnerability, and I think that kind of like ties back to the, like, being good at something and bad at something too, is being able to just own all of the bits and pieces, and just like,
Yes.
hey, this is who I am, and this is how I show up. I get that I'm not for everybody, but the people who do connect with me really, really hard. And it's like,
Exactly.
those are the people that
Exactly.
you're trying to connect with. It's not the other people in the world, and that's fine too. But yeah, I love it.
Exactly.
Brene Brown. I think one of my favorite things, side note, about her, one, the content and the message and what she's
Oh
trying
yeah.
to do and how she's trying to change the world, but that she says and ah and isn't an incredibly refined speaker, and that she swears. Oh, that's I love to swear, but that she's just a real person. Like, she doesn't
Yes.
have this
Yes.
like perfect speaking persona. She talks to you like you're a human being. And so, like, I feel
Exactly.
like that's what always engages me the most with her. Like, when I'm listening to her speak or watching her speak, is she just talks like a normal person. Like,
Yes.
yeah, very approachable.
And she
I
talks
would,
about her own struggles. She talks
yes.
about, getting sober and, the crazy life that she was living, and how she's had to come up against herself just like all of us do.
Hmm.
If we want to again pretend that, then nobody's trusting that.
Yeah.
I don't
Yep.
trust that.
Yeah, that's one of the things too, actually, about this podcast, not to toot my own horn, although we have
Mhm.
said that I should toot my own horn, is
Yeah,
that people appreciate that I'm like talking about my own stuff, that especially like
exactly.
in conversations like this. Or I think last week was the episode on boundaries and setting boundaries and stuff. So we're just having a conversation
Yes.
about like some of the work that
Yes.
I've done personally, because I
Yes.
feel like that's the important stuff, is somebody's like, oh, I'm
Yes.
not alone. Like, these other people have had this experience and like
Yes.
worked through it and tried to grow through it. And it's just, otherwise, how are we supposed to
Right.
change the world? You know?
Exactly. I for myself, in my own journey, I wish I understood the role of fear. I wish I understood fear is always a
Mm,
part of the formula. I wish I understood, don't ignore your intuition. And I did all the shoulds, I checked all the boxes, I ignored what my spirit was craving for. I
yeah.
certainly did not pay attention to what was going on in my body. And at a certain point, I just ended up disillusioned, exhausted, burned out. I'm like, I got to get out of here. I can't do this. Yeah. I,
Yeah.
if you haven't hit the wall, then you don't understand what other people are going through, which in a way is what you're talking about when you say, I don't hire kids straight out of college that have never had to work or, do
Yeah.
something that they didn't want to do,
Hmm.
because they don't have that experience, and they will have to get that experience somewhere somehow.
Yeah. Yep. And I think if it had been a different situation, like, it's just making the decision based on the job that we had to do and the way the business worked as it was. It's like, if I was in a different, like, if I had been at Best Buy still, where we hired a lot of kids straight out of high school or in
Right.
college, like, our average age
Right.
was very young. So that's a different environment where you can like basically test, like, they can test some of that stuff
Exactly.
and learn some of that stuff. But in the environment
Exactly.
that we were in, it was like, you can't, it was so different from like college in any kind of way. Like, cubicle farm life is a whole different vibe.
It just is.
But yeah, so it's just like, hey, in this situation, you've got to get the experience, but this is not the job to do that. This is like, you need to go
Exactly.
somewhere else first. But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So anywho, how can we find you, support you? Do you have anything that you want people to know about specifically that you're working on? All that good stuff.
Well, currently, I've been working with leaders and organizations who want to implement more diversity, equity, and inclusion strategies within their organization or company. And I have something that I call the shared leadership model. And not to go into too much detail, but it is a way to create that framework, within which there's room for inclusion. There's room for maybe the minority opinion, right? Maybe I come from a culture that doesn't match everybody that's in this organization. Can I say my opinion? Can that be accepted? Can that maybe be integrated? Maybe it won't be the way we go, but it can inform what we're doing. What's the framework within which we can create more equity? And I've really been enjoying doing this. Since the pandemic, I think we cannot unsee everything the inequity brought in the pandemic, racial disharmony, and even climate change. That's not impacting everybody equally. Where and how do we actually make change that will do something different for the future? And I'm loving doing that with organizations. So I just like to spread that word and help others see it and realize that unless we are willing to bring people into leadership roles who maybe we haven't generally seen before, especially in the nonprofit world, it's kind of the old white guy place, then if nothing changes, nothing changes. And so I'm really, really enjoying doing that with the organizations. And of course, I'm getting a lot of referrals, which is lovely. Somebody's implemented their model and they're working through it, and it's never flawless, but it's changing things for organizations. They're bringing in different people. They're listening. They maybe never ever had a client on their board. Those were those people. We're the other people. Yeah. All of that has to change if we want to see a different world.
Yeah. That's very important. No, I like that. I feel like it's such an interesting time. Like there's more conversation about those things, and there is so much divisiveness, but also it's just like opened the door for conversation, I think. So like some people are just like, oh wow, yeah, we don't like this. We'd like to not actually be this way, because it's like almost drawn such a clear line between different camps, opinions, whatever you want to call it.
Exactly.
So yeah, no, that's really cool. I like that. And you have, I forget what your website is. I'll put it in the show notes too, but how do people find you there?
It's barbaragallen.com.
Perfect. Easy peasy.
Easy peasy. And if people want to talk to me, they can go on and put themselves on my calendar. There's an option for that. Yeah.
Okay.
I think there's enough there. You can kind of see all the different things that I do for individuals, for teams. I have some special things I do with nonprofits. Yeah. See if it's a fit. It has to be a fit. And it's my little contribution to making the world a better place. Yeah.
No,
I think about Margaret Mead and that famous quote that never doubt that a small group of, thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world, because basically that is the only thing that ever has. So let's be part of that.
Yeah, no, I like that. Very cool. Any last thoughts or anything before we wrap up and head out?
This was so fun. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah.
Great conversation. Yeah. Too bad we're not going to have dinner now with a glass of wine.
I know, right? Yeah. I know, we're very far away. It's one of the pros and cons of remote, is being able to connect with people that are across the country, but then also you're across the country. So
exactly.
Perfect. Well, thanks for joining me. Super great conversation. I'm excited for people to hear.
Super. Thanks, Kristen.
Thanks so much for listening today. This was a great episode, and I'm sure you will appreciate the tips and insights from today. If you want to connect further with our guests, you can find the contact information, social media links, etc., any of the freebies in the show notes from today's episode. Please show some love to our guests and follow, and subscribe their content if you connected with them. And also don't forget to follow, and subscribe Building Better Businesses with Catalyst Consulting. Also, if you drop a juicy review, that's always cool too.